This is episode 29 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. We've got a lot to talk about on today's episode with the Bengals continuing to make offseason moves and the Browns putting together a valiant effort against the defending Super Bowl champions, only to fall just short. But hey, the team we all love to hate is clearly the third best team in the AFC North right now, and stay tuned for more
Third
because the
best.
Steelers still suck.
Third best. Third
They're,
best.
they're
I
the
thought the
third.
Steelers suck because they're certainly going to be the fourth best by the end of next year.
Well, yeah, they'll be the fourth best by the end of next year. But right now, I don't think anybody in their right mind can say that the Bengals are better than the Steelers right now. Although we did beat them on Monday night with our third string fucking quarterback.
Oh my God! Yeah, Steelers are cooked, man.
So
Steelers are so cooked.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
I think so. Why don't you tell me what you're drinking tonight, Thomas?
Tonight I'm drinking a 12 Dogs of Christmas because you know what though, this has been a good season, man. This has been the best Brown season of my lifetime for sure. So, cheers to them, man. Y'all did y'all thing. I can't hate.
Yep.
I cannot hate.
That was definitely a good game.
My last Christmas ale.
I think the Browns. I think the Browns definitely performed better than I thought they were going to. But anyway, before we get into that, in honor of the Ravens being eliminated from the playoffs, I am drinking a Guinness Baltimore Blonde.
that's
Go Ravens.
so racist. That's so messed up.
Oh, I'm a dick. I'm such a dick. Okay, so let us. We've been doing the Browns. We've been doing the Browns second this whole time, the last couple of weeks, just because they've been particularly interesting, and they're still probably the more interesting of the two teams. But let's go ahead and talk about them first this week.
Yeah.
So just as a recap for, I'm sure everybody watched the game, but just as a recap of what happened, the Browns did perform much better than expected, but they still lost 22-17 to the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a really rough start. It was not a good beginning for the Browns. They got down 19-3 early in the third quarter. That whole first half was just trash for the Browns. But at one point, Harrison Butker missed a field goal on the Chiefs' first drive of the second half, and Patrick Mahomes got injured on the second drive of the second half. And those two kind of things gave the Browns this boost of momentum, and they kind of started putting together this really impressive comeback. And again, as we know, they weren't able to finish it off. It got really close. Like the Browns got an end zone interception on Ched Henne, down only 5 points with 8 minutes left in the game. But unfortunately, the Browns offense struggled to come through in the clutch. The Browns offense failed to capitalize, and the Browns defense put the final nail in the coffin by allowing Ched Henne to ice the game on the final drive. So
I mean, you get two first downs. You get two first downs. It takes you 7 plays to get 2 first downs. Man, it's not the end of the world. I mean, like honestly, like I don't really think that first half was as bad as it seemed, because you honestly think about it, right? Art, you have 3 possessions in the first half, right? What are your 3 possessions? Possession number 1, you kick a field goal. Possession number 2, you punt the ball. In possession 3, you would have had a touchdown, but dude fumbles the ball in the end zone. So Higgins, you got to do better about that. We're probably going to talk more about that play in a minute. Oh, actually, let's talk about it. First of all, Higgins, you should not have fumbled that ball. I'm not going to
interception.
Drew Brees what?
Drew Brees just threw an interception. The Buccaneers might win this. Sorry, continue that. We'll talk about that later.
A lot of time left in this game. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. So that play, that fumble. I'm not gonna be one of those people who blame the refs or anything. I mean, that was the obviously helmet. I mean, he led with his helmet to knock that ball loose. Kind of illegal hit in football. And that would have made the game. What? That only made it like a 6-point game at that point, right?
Well,
So,
yeah,
I mean,
and
that was a big.
Not to mention at the end of the game, if you just add now, obviously you get a touchdown in that game, it changes the whole outcome of the rest of the game. But if you just add that,
I'm not going to go there.
Well, I'll go there if you add that 7. Well, you know what? I got my own thing to say about that in a second. So I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to go there. But you finish what you're saying.
No, I mean, like they, this Chiefs are just a better team. That's just at the end of the day, the Chiefs are just a better team. Yeah. Honestly, at the end of the day, the Chiefs are just a better team. And the thing is that I don't think Baker Mayfield played a particularly bad game. Like nothing alarming, nothing like, oh my God, this guy can't perform in the playoffs. Like Baker made some big throws. Baker made a lot of big throws. You talk about something to take away from him. We should have 2 touchdowns in the game. He only have 1. So yeah, there's that. But he would have had 2 touchdowns if that throw happened, and then you'd be going like Baker Mayfield 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, instead of Baker Mayfield 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He did have that interception. You got to say something about his interception. But I mean, you can't, if you watch that game though, like you can't ignore those just big throws that he made on 3rd down, where it was just like you either complete this pass or your season's over. Or those 2 big throws on 4th down that Baker Mayfield just made. Like, there's multiple times that touchdown drive where Kareem Hunt took a nap in the end zone. That was actually a very impressive drive. And I don't think that drive told me a lot. Now, the thing is, at the end of the day, you gotta that last drive where you got the interception, you gotta score on that drive. That's a championship drive. That's to me, I felt like that's unaggressive play calling. I felt like they didn't have a sense of urgency for one. The Browns didn't have a sense of urgency for one. Mm-hmm. And 2, bad management when it comes to calling timeouts, challenges, and being able to just make sure that you're organized. And I just think that they just lost because, simply put, not a single person on that roster was ever there before. Not a single person in that coaching staff was ever there before. And since none of them were there before, they're learning on the spot. And it's not like I said, it was not like I seen anything that's catastrophic that we can't learn and grow from. Because at the end of the day, you're 2 wins from the Super Bowl, or you're 1 win from you're 2 wins from the Super Bowl, and you got a rookie head coach. You got a 3rd-year quarterback. I mean, like you're not doing bad at all. You're not doing bad at all. Everything's good. Nothing to freak out about. There are some other playoff teams that have some other screaming questions that we don't have to worry about right now. I mean, like nobody should kill Baker Mayfield because Baker Mayfield did what he's supposed to do. I mean, like y'all just lost because y'all just the least inexperienced team. Go out get a defense next year. Go out get a goddamn defense next year. Y'all get a defense next year. Y'all get 1 more chance at that end zone. With that defense, with that cut of defense, y'all ain't winning crap with that defense, man. Y'all got to go out and get a defense next year. They get a defense next year, and then we can talk Super Bowl.
Good job, though. Good job, Browns. Definitely struggling there down the stretch. But I think the one thing that I really want to point out personally about this game is I think, and I posted a Facebook status about this after the game. I don't know if you saw it or not, but the Browns should hold their heads high because y'all got to the playoffs. You won a playoff game. Not only did you win that playoff game, but you put the Steelers to bed, which I like. We can all enjoy that.
Put them in a rebuild.
Put them in a rebuild. And then you took you made the defending Super Bowl champions and the team that everybody's anointed as the next dynasty, who very well might be. Well,
They are.
mm, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, the
Well, being Patrick Mahomes up here
well,
walking,
if Patrick
Patrick
Mahomes
Mahomes
plays,
to know where the difference
yes.
between the left and right. Yeah,
But
that team is
y'all
good, man.
made that team sweat. So you know what? Enjoy it. Like, a couple years ago, y'all were drinking Bud Light because you had nothing else to celebrate. So, like, I
You,
haven't seen, I've seen a couple of Browns fans getting mad. For the most part, I've seen Browns fans being like, hey guys, it was a great season. I'm just happy that we got what we got, and that's kind of what I was trying to say before the Steelers game. Now y'all won the Steelers game, and that's fantastic. What I was trying to say is, the fact that you guys have gotten this far is just a testament to what you've done so far. I think you put a
yeah,
couple more pieces in place, and this Browns team is poised to be as dangerous as anybody. I would put them in the discussion of a potential Super Bowl contending team if you put piece A, piece B, piece C here in the offseason, and get them
yeah,
to gel and be cohesive together. And I will point out one thing: the Browns lost by 5 points, and they had a
mhm,
touchdown. You just talked about it a few minutes ago, a touchdown taken off the board because Rashard Higgins fumbled the ball through the end zone, and the ball and it
yeah,
turned into a turnover instead of 7 points for the Browns. So if and that's at the end of the half. So if that play happens, and then the rest of the game, now obviously that play happens and it changes the whole landscape of the rest of the game. So you never really know what happens.
yeah,
But just assuming that play happens and everything after that happens the same, then that 7 points, the Browns win. So again, I know you don't want to go there. You'd be like, oh, we could have just won if blah 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 blah. But my point is to not say like oh, the Browns blah 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 should have won and they got robbed or whatever. My whole point is to say that the Browns are right there.
yeah,
They're so close, and
yeah,
they're already doing really well. That's how that the difference in that game, which was decided by a play that ended up going the wrong way, but you had the play there. Um, that's where they're at right now, and that's how close
yeah,
they're to being where they want to be. So I
yeah,
guarantee you that this division next year is going to come down to, you know, it's going to come down to Baltimore and Cleveland. And I think that there's a potential that the Bengals, if they do all the right things this offseason, could like compete for it. But it's going to run through Baltimore and Cleveland next season.
no, no,
Uh,
I think the Bengals are gonna be right there, man. I
well,
think the Bengals
I
are.
think the
If I'm
Bengals
being
will
real
be
with you,
competing, but it's going to be. I don't think that it's going to be like, oh, you got to beat the Bengals to win the division. I think it's the Bengals are going to have to beat you guys to win the division. It's going to be like, you guys are going to be
yeah,
the ones who should probably win the division, and if the Bengals do it, then that'll be a nice surprise.
I think, um, I think, I think with Joe Burrow, and if y'all get a good defense, maybe another playmaker,
Mhm.
whether that's another running back or another receiver,
Mhm.
I think you guys will be dangerous. I think you guys could be more dangerous than the Ravens. And like I don't want to be again. I don't want to be a Baltimore, not Baltimore hater, a Lamar Jackson hater, but um, what I seen last game was very alarming.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, well, you look at so you look at what I'm not gonna say because like I'm not going because Baker only played 2 games and the 2 games Baker played. The first game Baker Mayfield played good, but they didn't win that game because of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield just had a okay game, a solid game against the Steelers, but
Mhm.
that mostly because of his playmakers. But he did what he's supposed to do, passing wise. And yesterday against Kansas City, it wasn't, or today against Kansas City, it wasn't. The reason I wouldn't say the Browns lost that game because of Baker Mayfield. Like, in fact, the Browns got back into that game because of Baker Mayfield and
Mhm.
Nick Chubb making big plays. Like you look at some of those big throws that Baker Mayfield made. I look at Lamar Jackson, man. and he hasn't been making big throws in playoff situations. Like that throw, okay, the throw that I cannot get that's living rent free in my head right now, that made me kind of go like, all right, Baker Mayfield, you're excused for this. Well, first of all, there's a couple of throws. That throw to Higgins was great. That he fumbled the end zone. That was a great throw. But that throw that he threw to Hooper on 4th down with the rush coming at him, dude, like that was a throw. Next 2-3 plays later to get a touchdown. Like, you know, for you to make that throw with your season on the line, this is only your second playoff game. You're playing against the defending champions. You're only 25 years old, and you make that throw, falling back, put that right on the money. And I see that. I see Baker Mayfield making those plays. I see Josh Allen making those plays. I don't see Lamar Jackson making those plays.
Yep.
I bet you Joe Burrow make those throws. And it just goes back. Yeah. But I mean, like in playoff situations.
Well, okay, not
I think Joe Burrow will make those throws. Oh, he will. He will. Yeah. Trust me, he will. I think Joe Burrow will.
I think so.
I was that's why I'm not freaking out right now. Because like I was like, all right, from what I've seen, I haven't seen anything that we can't grow from. But when I look at Lamar Jackson and I look at his 4 playoff games and I look at his passing stats in those playoff games, man, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know how much can athletic make up for that.
Right. Well,
like honestly,
we'll talk a little bit more about Lamar Jackson here in a little bit, but getting back on topic about the Bengals and Browns, Bengals. I do agree with you that the Bengals have, they're right on the precipice of being back at a point of relevancy. They're right there. Mm-hmm. They're right there, ready to start competing in the playoffs. And I don't know about like what they're going to do when they get there. I don't know about what they're going to do when they get there, but I think I think with Joe Burrow, you can always be optimistic about if you get to the playoffs, then you're always going to be poised to potentially do some damage there. But as far as Joe the Burrow Bengals go,
in the playoffs.
Yeah. As far as the Bengals this week go, we haven't quite hit that point yet, and we got to have a good offseason. I think if we are going to take that next step next year, it's going to require a really good offseason, and we've been doing it so far. We're only in the phase where we're like looking at, who we're going to bring in to kind of help Zach Taylor mold his staff and get the most out of these players. But we talked about it on the last podcast with, bringing Frank Pollock back to coach the offensive line, and a lot of Bengals players getting excited about that. Since we recorded that last podcast, they've made another hire. And they've replaced their defensive line coach with former Dolphins defensive line coach Marion Hobby. Now, do you know who that is, Thomas?
Was he fired by the Browns?
No, it was
in
not
the last 20 years.
I can't think of too many reasons why you would know who he is, and I didn't know.
Well, that was one of them.
We're talking about assistant coaching hires. Nobody knows who these guys are except for the guys hiring them. Like
I'm just saying, like that's the only way I know who he is.
Oh yeah, these aren't like huge big names. I was just making a point. Like, oh, you probably don't know who Marion Hobby is, but you know what? You probably should know who Marion Hobby is, because you know who Marion Hobby is. He was the Dolphins defensive line coach over the last couple of years. He helped Brian Flores and Josh Boyer, the defensive coordinator out there, put together a Dolphins defense that almost put the Dolphins in the playoffs in 2019 in this year after being absolutely disgustingly awful last year. I saw some interesting stats. They ranked number 10 overall this year in sacks with 41. They ranked 6th in quarterback rating allowed, 87.0. And their longest rush of the season they allowed was 37 yards, which is the 5th lowest, longest single rush allowed in the NFL. And for reference, the longest rush for half of the other teams the NFL allowed was at least 60 yards. And efficiency like that, if you can do something like that, I don't know. He's just a defensive line coach. He's not going to like make. He's not going to bring everything from the Dolphins over here. But if we can get some of that efficiency, that's going to really come in handy against big running teams that we see a lot in the AFC North, like the Browns and the Ravens. So, you know what else he did? He created Saxonville. You remember Saxonville? That brief period of time where the Jacksonville Jaguars were like a really, really good team, and it was
that was a very brief period of time.
Yeah, and it was almost entirely because of their defense, and a big part of it. Part of it was Jalen Ramsey and that Jaguar secondary doing pretty well, but a big part of it was actually their defensive line, which ranked second in total sacks that year with 56. The best in passing yards allowed, which was only 2,718, and the best in the NFL in passer rating allowed, 68.5. It was a unit that was the driving force between the Jaguars' third ever AFC Championship appearance and the first AFC Championship appearance for the Jaguars since 1999. This guy has a track record of doing very good things as a defensive line coach in the NFL. And oh, by the way, he was DJ Reader's defensive line coach in college.
Yeah.
Huh.
So you're really excited about this hire right now?
I am really, really. I might be more excited about this guy than I was about the Frank Pollock hiring. Like, I think it's actually a little underrated how much we need to fix our defensive line, particularly the pass rush, because the offensive line was so like visibly bad and Joe Burrow got hurt. So I think a lot of people, rightfully so, we're looking at the offensive line as the biggest thing that we need to fix this offseason. But I think because the offensive line is such a catastrophe, people don't give enough credit, or people don't really see just how bad the defensive line is as well. So I think I think if we can maybe, land a blow on the defensive line in free agency, or maybe bring in a really good edge rusher or something like that, I think maybe we can do something good with this defensive line. But one other thing I can tell you is when the Bengals have been really good in recent years, it's always come because their defensive line was one of the top units in the NFL. Like, back when Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap and Michael Johnson and, whoever else, Domata Peko occasionally were playing at the top of their game, that's when the Bengals were in the playoffs, and that's when the Bengals were really finding their success, when they could get to the quarterback. And I would love it if Marion Hobby, the guy that we just hired for the defensive line, could bring some of that fire back to this unit. Yeah.
I think he's going to be great.
You mentioned something about defensive coordinator, and I think that would be really nice if we get a new defensive coordinator, because I'm not sold on Lou Anarumo. I have never been sold on Lou Anarumo. I thought it was a fine hire at the time because we were kind of having an issue where like nobody wanted to actually come here because people like Zach Taylor was such an unknown back then, and the Bengals were going through all these massive major changes, and I don't think anybody wanted to be part of like a complete from scratch rebuild. So it's like at that point you had to go get somebody like Lou Anarumo, who was like, that's a guy who's like maybe at some point going to be like a defensive coordinator, but they're hungry now. They'll take any opportunity they can go get, and that was. Was Lou Anarumo. It also helped that Lou and Zach briefly coached together for the Miami Dolphins back in the day. While I think Zach Taylor was the interim offensive coordinator and Lou Anarumo was the interim defensive coordinator. So that's part of where that connection came from. But it also had a lot to do with the fact that nobody wanted to come coach here.
Oh, by the way, I misspoke. I said Hobby was the defensive coordinator. I meant defensive line coach.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as the
the thing is. Oh, sorry. Wait.
I was just going to say I would love for the Bengals to have gone and gotten a new defensive coordinator. And actually, to be completely honest with you, I think Marion Hobby would have made a good defensive coordinator. Like I think that would have been a good positional coach to go get to be our new defensive coordinator. Because I mean, he's seen how to turn a defense around from being just this nothing unit, like the Jaguars, turning the Jaguars around. That was unbelievable, and he was a big part of that.
Mhm.
But you know what? I don't know. Maybe it'll work out this way. As long as he's in the building, and it's a guy who's really smart, and maybe he likes Lou Anarumo. Maybe they can work well together. That's kind of my hope, anyway.
Yeah, hey. I mean, like it never hurts to have a lot of coaches, man. The Browns, they went out and got a huge coaching staff, and it's kind of, I really like what they're doing there. And so hey, it's always great to have a lot of voices, a lot of, as long as everybody's willing to work with each other. I should say that. Like, if you have a lot of coaches, you got to make sure that everybody molds well with each other. Man, somebody put a photo, the photo of Ben Roethlisberger on the bench. Somebody just posted on the AFC North conflict of Baker Mayfield sitting right next to Ben Roethlisberger. Well, hey, man, look, first of all,
we are not the same.
First of all, that is actually freaking hilarious. But Baker Mayfield didn't blow 11-0 record for one, and then lose 4 out of the last 5, including a playoff game to a team that y'all been owning for 20 years. So take a back seat. Second of all, Baker Mayfield didn't throw 4 interceptions. Ben Roethlisberger threw 4 times as many interceptions as Baker Mayfield threw in his entire postseason career. Keep on being salty, Steelers fans. Steelers fans are really mad at Browns fans right now. It's freaking hilarious.
Well,
It
you
is
know
freaking
what?
hilarious because they can't say shit to us right now.
I was about to say you're getting exactly what's been coming to you for forever. Now, I look forward to the day when the Bengals finally get to play the little brother bullying bigger brother kind of thing. I look forward to when we get to take part in that. But you know what? Y'all got what's coming to you from the way y'all been acting for the last 15 years. Y'all act like you're just this fucking hot shit and nothing bad's ever gonna happen. The Steelers are always gonna dominate everybody, and that's not how it works. The Steelers are fucking trash now, and you got to deal with the fact that they're trash, and you're gonna have to get a lot of the shit that got said to you, or that you said to us, because you get said back to you, and you're just gonna have to deal with your own shit. Get used to it. All right, so I think we've probably talked enough about all that. So let's go ahead and get into the underrated players of the week. This will be the final underrated players of the week of the 2020 season, because this will be the last game for either the Bengals or the Browns of the 2020 season. So Thomas, in your opinion, who played this week? Who's not getting enough credit for the way they played?
None of them. Both of y'all. All of y'all trash. No, I'm joking. Man, I've been thinking about this, man. I've been sitting here contemplating this for a while. Shoot, man. That game was a giant kick in the gut. The only people who kept us alive in that game were our stars. So really, who the hell, what though, actually, who I'll give it to? I don't give it to you, Alex Hooper. Cheers to you, Alex Hooper. Because you know what, Alex Hooper? I talk about Hooper. That play. I'm sorry, Austin Hooper. You've been trash all year. You've been so much trash all year that I forgot your name. So, Austin Hooper, I just got tired of you dropping balls. Never mind, I'm not going to make that joke. I'll get tired of you dropping balls. I'll get tired of you. I mean, you done a great job blocking. You were a great team player in the locker room and everything. But I expected more from you. You made that big catch to keep the season alive. I gotta give that to you. I gotta give it to you, man. I give it to you. You did your thing. You showed up to that.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think he did a
To
pretty
you,
good job.
homie.
So,
Good job catching that ball. You caught a
I'm
ball.
gonna-
Yeah.
So we're gonna give the underrated player of the week award to Austin Hooper. I'm gonna weigh in and tell you who I think. Now I'm not the Browns fan here, so I don't get to issue the award. However, I do have my own thoughts about it. So earlier when you said like nobody gets it, y'all suck. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. Not entirely, not entirely. It's just I don't really feel like there were too many underrated guys this week who really stepped up. Guys like Baker, Kareem, Higgins, they're going to get exactly as much credit as they deserve, and that's not entirely all the credit because, like, especially like with Higgins and fumbling the ball in the end zone and stuff like that, and then Baker had an okay game but not a great game. Kareem Hunt got a touchdown, but he also struggled in some pretty key situations. So it's like none of those guys are going to get a ton of credit, but whatever credit they do get is exactly what they deserve. So the one guy who I think actually did pretty good and isn't going to get enough credit for it is fuck it. You know what? I'm giving it to the kicker. I'm giving it to the kicker. Cody Parkey, the author of
Hunter one time.
Cody Parkey, the author of the Double Doink, managed to be a perfect field goal kicker this week. He kicked he kicked one field goal for 46 yards and made it in. And he kicked both extra points straight down the middle. No issues there. And the main reason I point that out is because we have had an awful weekend as far as kicking is concerned. Like, both Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker, two of the best field goal kickers in the league, missed field goal kicks this weekend. Cody Parkey managed to avoid that, and he only accounted for 5 of the Browns' 17 points, but I feel like that, if anything, is an underrated aspect. So, for me, good job, Cody Parkey. Gave the Browns.
It is also noteworthy to mention that he did not miss a field goal during the Steelers game either, or extra point during the Steelers game either.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Y'all didn't believe in him. Y'all didn't believe in him. Good to know somebody's doing his job.
There you go. All right, so
Browns look like rookies that game, man. That's what they look like. They just look like they were there for the first time. If I'm being real, that's the best way I could describe how the Browns played. It looked like they were there for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's continue. Let's
talk
about the AFC.
I agree with that assessment. But anyway, as far as let's move on to the state of the AFC North. Well, the state of the AFC North is it's over. Both the Browns and the Ravens lost. So there's no more AFC North football left until, the next season comes along. So the main thing I think that needs to be discussed here with the state of the AFC North is the fact that going forward, it's looking like the power structure is going to shift pretty significantly. So you've got the Ravens, who are struggling mightily in the playoffs lately. I mean, they beat the Titans, but like you said, even then, Lamar Jackson didn't. I mean, Lamar Jackson had a couple of good plays against the Titans that gave him the win, but like you said, he didn't exactly light the world on fire against the Titans. That was the one playoff game they've won with him. Outside of that, it's been pretty much a shit show for Lamar Jackson. So the playoffs, which used to be the Ravens' bread and butter, used to be like, oh, the Ravens are kind of up and down throughout the whatever, but they always come through in the playoffs, and they're not even doing that anymore. So it's like, what even are the Ravens? What's the Ravens' identity now? You don't even know.
Yeah.
They're a good regular season team. That's about it. The Steelers look like they're headed for a complete and utter rebuild. Ben Roethlisberger isn't sure if he's coming back next year. And be completely honest with you, might be best for the Steelers if he doesn't, because he's got that cap hit. Not only he's got that cap hit, but he's taking up that roster spot for a young quarterback. I heard some rumors
Yeah.
that they might that the Steelers would be a good destination for Deshaun Watson to go. But how the hell is Deshaun Watson gonna? How the Steelers gonna be able to even remotely afford Deshaun Watson with the amount of money that they owe Ben Roethlisberger? Not only in his cap hit for next year, but the dead money that they'll have on him next year. Like if he retires or if they cut him or something, like
Yeah, that's what
like they cannot
I
afford
mean,
Deshaun
yeah.
Watson. And if Ben Roethlisberger does come back next year, Deshaun Watson ain't gonna go there. Deshaun Watson is not going to agree to go to a Steelers team where I like. I mean, I guess he doesn't have the choice if he gets traded, but the Steelers won't trade for him. They don't think he's going to play for them because he's going to be like, I ain't going to be a backup quarterback. Fuck you.
Yeah, I, you know, I, I agree with you. That kind of relaxed me when I realized the cap hit, because I'm terrified of the Steelers getting Deshaun Watson, because I think Deshaun Watson, this division, man. First of all, any NFL fan outside looking into the division will probably log into every single AFC North game, like Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson in the same division, all in their prime. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Like, what? Could you imagine that division? That would be probably one of the greatest divisions of all time.
I don't know.
Shut up, Google. Oh, I'm sorry, Google was speaking to me.
I will say though, I don't like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. First of all, the Steelers aren't really the types to make big giant trades anyway.
Yeah, they're not gonna
when
make
they
it,
traded for
but
Minka
I hope
Fitzpatrick last year, that was kind of they don't really do that. That was a weird thing that they don't normally do.
I don't want Deshaun Watson in this division anyway. I personally
I don't want
I want
that
the Steelers to
either,
get like
but
not Stafford.
I think
I
it's
hope they get
pretty
like Stafford or
unrealistic.
something. So
I don't
as far
think
as
the Steelers are
the
going to do that at all. I think the Steelers are going to go through the draft.
yeah, they're gonna try. I mean, they gotta have something in place. But my thing is about the Steelers though, and I said this. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna take a second and look yourself in the mirror and say, "Hey, we need some culture changes in this organization"? Because like your players are kind of out of control right now, man. And you guys are acting like I don't have a problem with it, but there's obviously a problem there. Like, this is the same organization that produced Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Like there are, I don't know. I just think that they're like the receiver core in particular. Chase Claypool, Brown's living rent free in his head. Juju, all of them. The receivers are just big time divas. And I'm not saying that receivers aren't divas, but we got Odell Beckham. But it just feels like, I don't know. It just feels like the culture there is just weird. You have the quarterback. The other thing is, like, there's just no respect for anybody, man. Like, the only person who gets respect in that organization is Tomlin. Like, really think about it though. Who else in that organization get respect that's not a player, right? So, like, the only thing the players respect is Tomlin. But they're like, well, if Tomlin don't say, then it doesn't matter. That's pretty much how the organization was ran. Think about it though, right? There was a report that came out earlier this year that talked about how Ben Roethlisberger was changing the plays and he was calling the plays and he was running the offense and undermining the offensive coordinator. And it's not like it's not the first time this happened with Ben Roethlisberger. Why is Ben Roethlisberger struggling so much with offensive coordinators, man? Like, Ben Roethlisberger can't work with nobody. Like, do you think that's gonna help you? You got an aging quarterback who doesn't trust anybody but himself. And I know he's been in the league a long time. I know he probably knows the playbook better than almost anybody else. But you have these offensive coordinators for a reason, Ben Roethlisberger. They're not trying to make you lose the game. They're trying to help you. And if you don't want to listen to people who want to help you, then not only does that serve a bad example for the rest of the team, but that's going to also crucially affect you in big game situations. So if you don't respect the coaches, if you don't respect the offensive coordinator, then your teammates are going to respect the offensive coordinator. And they can't respect their coaches, they're not going to respect the other team, and they're not going to respect themselves. There's a culture problem in Pittsburgh. There's a culture problem in Pittsburgh. And the reason why they're going to be in the rebuild is because they don't want to look in the mirror. They're too freaking arrogant to admit it. But it's just going to happen to them naturally. So you know what? Start the rebuild, Pittsburgh.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems, and I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there. I think one of the biggest problems you have in Pittsburgh right now, and part of the reason why, I actually don't want Ben Roethlisberger to retire. I want him to keep playing because he's a problem. I would love for them to keep that problem. But a big part of the reason why Ben Roethlisberger needs to retire is because his head has gotten so massive that it's crushing everything around him. Like Ben Roethlisberger's ego is so out of control that he thinks he knows better than every single other thing. He won't, like you said, he won't listen to anybody. He won't work with anybody. He basically thinks like, oh, hey, I'm the end all be all of the Steelers. And, if and I don't actually have to listen to anybody. I'm just going to do what I want to do, and you can't whatever. And I think that's a big reason why they've been struggling, because they have no chemistry. It's impossible to build chemistry with a guy who only wants to have chemistry with himself. He wants you to do – he doesn't want you to have chemistry with him. He wants you to shut up and listen and let him tell you what to do. That's what Ben Roethlisberger's been doing. And not only – I'm not only just like speculating that based off of the way that I've seen the team play, the way that I've seen, Ben basically be the offensive coordinator half the time, the way that, Antonio Brown has talked about his beef with Ben Roethlisberger and stuff like that. I'm talking about like actual legitimate reports that come out of Pittsburgh talking about how Ben Roethlisberger just basically does whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. And like, he's got this weird like cowboy mentality, but like, except you can't be a cowboy when you're on an NFL team. You have to be a member of a team. You have to like be a cohesive, like he just wants to be like this independent Lone Ranger type. And it's like, okay, but you can't do that. Like you got 53 other guys on that team who all have to have like, and they're all professional football players. They want to all have their like basic level of respect owed to them. And you're walking around here like, you're the fucking master of the team, and everybody has to listen to you and only do what you want to do. Well, guess what? You ain't even all that talented anymore because you're fucking 6 billion years old or some shit. So you're causing your team problems. And I hate to like say it because you're causing those problems. I'd love to see you stick around, but you know what? From a realistic standpoint, you need to fucking go. You're causing issues, and everybody knows it. Even Steelers fans are getting pissed off at you at this point. You're tarnishing your own legacy. If even if you just want to look at it from a selfish perspective, retire for your own sake. Because if you keep playing, all people are going to remember you by as this guy who was once great and then kind of turned into like, this old fucking gremlin who nobody wants to associate with. And like, you'll probably still make the Hall of Fame, but you're not going to be remembered the way you want to be remembered.
Yeah, no. I completely agree with you. And I mean, like, it also goes back to the thing, like, you see all these things that people like Drew Brees, you look at these older quarterbacks, Drew Brees, Alex Smith, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. Those two are the oldest quarterbacks in the NFL. That goes along with and Phillip Rivers. All those players. You look at those players, right? Those other older quarterbacks that are around the age of Tom Brady, and just their work ethic, man. Their work ethic to make sure that they stay in the league as long as they can because they're aging quarterbacks. What are you doing, Ben Roethlisberger? Like, what are you doing to make sure that your body can last in the NFL? Like, I know you just had elbow surgery. I know you just probably had a rehab, but I mean, like, it just bothers me. It's just that work ethic just don't. You don't have Tom Brady's or Drew Brees' work ethic. You might have their study effort, but Tom Brady, man, his effort goes beyond just the game, right? It's what he eats, his diet stuff. He don't ever stop practicing. He's always strengthening up. He's always getting stronger. He's staying fit. What are you doing? I mean, maybe I'm not seeing you behind the scenes. Maybe I don't know what your what your study habits are, but what are you doing to your body, man, to make sure that your body holds up? Because, all right, yeah, you have 500 yards against the Browns. You have 500 yards against the Browns. You had a lot of those yards during garbage time. You got a lot of those yards against a cushion soft defense. And how many of those yards are just slant routes? Because you have very fast receivers, Ben Roethlisberger. But what are you doing to stay in the NFL longer, man? What are you doing? Because if you're not doing anything, if you're not showing that work ethic, if you're not showing that respect for the players, you're not showing that respect for your coaches and your teammates, then you ain't going to end up going anywhere. So you know what? You keep me in trash, Tom Brady. Not Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger. I'm sorry, I was looking at a photo of Tom Brady being the GOAT. Tom Brady's great.
Ben Roethlisberger,
you trash.
Ben Roethlisberger is the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's Ben Roethlisberger. Do you realize, Thomas, that this guy wouldn't be starting on probably any other NFL team right now?
Yes, I do realize that.
Mainly if I had to bet because of that attitude. But, I mean, this year in particular, he would have been benched on most other NFL teams. But because he's Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers just keep, throwing him in there because they want to have the guy that they want to give their guy the send off that he wants. They basically hey, you won 2 Super Bowls here. Hey, you had a Hall of Fame career here. So we're going to let you do whatever the hell you want until you've decided that you're done. And I don't know, maybe you feel like he's earned that, maybe whatever. But if regardless of whether you do or not, maybe the Steelers feel like he earns it, and that's great. But if you're going to do that, you got to understand that you're kind of throwing the rest of your team under the bus in the process. You're wasting TJ Watt right
now. Man, they're going to have to do something, man. Watch them get the best quarterback in the draft on the low, and I'm pissed. They're gonna do something, man. They're gonna do something. They probably got something planned. They're the Steelers, but at the same time, I just think like you know how you watch like superhero movies you watch superhero movies or some kind of like cartoon movie or whatever, and then there's like this impossible to beat villain. And they're like, oh, this is how we're going to beat this villain. We're going to beat this villain because his ego is going to keep him from winning. Like, in reality, nobody with that much power. Like, oh, he let his guard down because of his ego. Man, no, man, come on. Like, that's so unrealistic. But in this situation, when you think about the Steelers, and you think about their organization in the last couple of years, and how they don't want to do stuff because they're the Steelers, not Steeler pride, and that Steeler pedigree. It sounds like to me the Steelers are they're missing on the inevitable because of their own egos. And if they keep their ego and their pride, and they do not humble themselves and take a look in the mirror and realize they have inherent problems with the organization, attitude-wise and structure-wise, they will force themselves into a rebuild. So you know what, Steelers, keep on being the Steelers. Y'all still suck.
They do. The Steelers still suck. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll see you. We'll still be podcasting, but we'll see the Bengals and the Browns next year. We'll be talking about them over the off season. We're going to be, I think we're going to be mixing the way that we do things up. I think we're going to be coming out with 1 podcast episode a week, but I think we're also going to try to do a live stream during the week to kind of offset that. So no more 2 episode a week things, but we're still going to be doing 2 things a week. So, those of you who like hanging out with us and listening to us talk, and, I know some people like listening to us talk and then talking back at us while they're listening to the podcast. I've had people tell me that already, but anyway, like I said, we got plenty of content coming your way this off season, just not necessarily all in podcast form like we've been doing.
We're gonna keep it coming. Don't worry.
Yep, absolutely. You can find me on Facebook.com/The Phelps and at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter. You can find Thomas at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram, and he's got a YouTube page called Blowdown Page. Also, I don't mention it because I never remember to mention it, but don't forget we do have a Facebook page where if you want to find out updates about the show without necessarily having to listen to this whole like monologue at the end, we'll post things that we're doing on that page as well. If you want to interact with us on that page, interact with us on our various social media things. If you want to come on the show, we'd love to have you. We'll schedule a time for you. Just hit me or Thomas up. Or just comment down below and tell us what you think and give us your ideas about whatever's going on. So that'll be it for this episode. I'll leave y'all with a Who Dey.